I would like to thank you all. First, I have to thank Asha and Ken for their great effort that they have been with us for the last 3 days. The presentations and the keynotes they gave was the first step that introduced us to new concepts, new ideas for e-learning in mainstream universities, from policies to practice. Today, we are having the third day, which actually a workshop, a practical workshop on some ideas that will be introduced through this session. Actually, Dr. Asha and Ken were very generous to dedicate this time for this event, which is very important to us, which might bridge the gap between policies and practice in Palestinian University, and especially our university, Khaduri. We are happy to have you today with us, and I would like to ask Asha just to give a short introduction that this conference was through a project that is establishing the Center of Innovation, Khaduri Center for Innovation, for Learning and Teaching Innovation, which is funded by USAID and through Amid East. The center is almost ready, and this is one important topic that we are will be in our center. So please, Asha.
It's really been a privilege for us to be here, because now I work in a development organization like UNESCO for the Commonwealth, you know. So I'm out of touch with the university, and it's so nice to go back to a university to see other colleagues like yourselves, to see students outside, you know, looking so cheerful. So it has been a privilege, and I'm very grateful to Prof. Marwan Awartani, Dr. Hussam, Dr. Samer, our colleague I found from Ahmedabad, Samir. So thank you all very much for this opportunity. Now we are going to give you 2 short workshops, Ken and myself. Ken is also an old colleague, so it's nice to work with him. We are going to talk about open education resources. And you see that my topic is what, why and how. The second will be that you will be able to assess for yourselves how we can use OER in PT UK. So what we will do, we can start from over there, from Samir. You know, we'll just quickly go down the tables to say just your name and which university you are from. So it gives us an idea.
فلسطين التقنية. Yeah, from BTQ UK.
I'm Yasin from Al-Najah University.
I'm Musab Miari from Al-Najah University. I'm a model administrator.
Faiz Abdul Hafid, I am also from Najah National University.
Nice.
أشجع الريدي مشرف في مديرية التربية والتعليم طول كرم.
ماجد عوض supervisor of English. I work for the direct education طول كرم.
عمار نصيف جامعة فلسطين التقنية خضوري.
أنا بس عمر صلاح بالإنجليزي.
جواد عباد الجامعة الإنجليزية.
إسلام أبو خريس جمعية الحق والعدالة غزة.
والمسلماني ماستر curriculum and teaching method Najah University.
I'm not even, I don't belong to a university, but I am from Ministry of National Economy, just coming to.
Oh. You are most welcome.
إبراهيم عبد الرحيم Higher Council for Organization and
أحمد أشكر عمارني فلسطين تكنيكال يونيفرسيتي.
Candidates from the University of Southern Queensland.
ريهام سرها بي UK. خديجة جابر بي UK. مها جراد بي UK. رمضان. رمضان جراد بي UK. لميس مجر بي UK. الفتى جراد بي UK. Last 18 years I'm a dentist.
حسام قصراوي بي UK.
نها فير بي UK.
So in this presentation, I will have 4 parts. First, I will look at, in the last 10 years, OER have come out, open education resources have emerged in the last 10 years. It is an innovation in education, which is a theme of our conference. My organization, the Commonwealth of Learning, has a leadership role in open education resources. So I want to share with you some of the lessons we have learned. Call contributions, what is it that we have done which you can use, some of the things which you can use, and I've already given you 2 books, which are very general but very useful. It's like frequently asked questions, about what is OER, what is in it for me, why should I do it, and future directions. Here I will take a little bit of an academic approach to analyze the situation, since I know you don't want just simple history, you also want something which will engage your mind. So that's what I plan to do. So let us first look at the key developments in the last 10 years, which have had quite a major impact on the way we think about teaching and learning. We have seen now a global movement towards collaboration in the development and sharing of content. The development of a global commons powered by the collective intelligence of the masses has led to the global community coining the term open education resources, or OER. UNESCO organized this. Actually, OER started with Rice University in the US under the project called Connections, where they were putting free material in many languages open for anyone to use in the world. But then UNESCO organized a conference in 2002 in Paris, and then they brought some experts from all over the world who came up with this term open education resources. So the term is fairly recent, it's just 12 years old. And what is open education resources? This is a definition which we see again and again. These could be teaching, learning and research materials in any medium, that means print, audio, video, anything, that reside in the public domain or have been released under an open license that permits their free use, and in some cases you can adapt and change them. So this looks at OER as content which is free and freely available. So this is what OER are basically: free materials, freely available, suitable not for higher education alone, for schools, teacher training, for skills development. They can be reused and repurposed to suit different needs and can be available in any medium: print, audio, video, digital. So what is the difference between normal content and OER? One key difference between OER and other educational resources is that OER have an open license which allows adaptation and reuse without having to request the copyright holder. For example, I have put something under a Creative Commons or a free license, you can use it. You can translate it into Arabic without asking me, and it's fine, because you will be using the same open license to share it with others. So I think the world is moving towards more collaboration, more openness and more sharing. Now the most famous of all the OER which have come out is from MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Yesterday there was a colleague of yours presenting from there who has done her PhD recently. This open courseware initiative, under which teachers placed their lecture notes online for free use, and this actually became very famous all over the world, and people started talking about OER. UNESCO also came after that. Then you have the Open Learn of the British Open University, which started putting self-instructional material also in online format for free, which is a big thing, because the British Open University wants to make money because it's very expensive, everything in the UK is expensive. And Commonwealth of Learning actually started the Virtual University for Small States of the Commonwealth, in which we have also developed material, because in the Commonwealth we have 31 small states. You know, small state means any country with a population of less than 1.5 million. And all these countries like Tonga, Tuvalu, Samoa in the Pacific, or Trinidad and Tobago, Jamaica in the Caribbean, these are all small states. So they wanted a university in which they can decide what courses to make. So it's a very democratic institution which decides what courses they want, they develop it, and everything is available OER. If you go to my website, you can take any material if you need it. And then in 2012, that is 2 years ago, the Commonwealth of Learning and UNESCO, we organized a world conference in OER in Paris, and this was supported by the William and Flora Hewlett Foundation. This conference resulted, there were more than 70 countries present, and the countries actually came up with an OER declaration which has 10 recommendations. And these are some of the 4 important ones which I was going to bring to your attention. Foster awareness and use of OER. I mean, more and more people should hear about OER, especially our teachers in faraway schools. They don't know about OER, and they are spending a lot of time using the same book which is 20 years old and teaching the same thing to the students. So more people need to know that, you know, there is this treasure. Alibaba's treasure is there for us to take free. Encourage the development of OER in a variety of languages and cultural contexts. Now there are things happening, you know, in Saudi Arabia, in Jordan, developing OER in Arabic. Qatar Foundation has done that, but more needs to be done. And this is what the Paris Declaration said, that, you know, if you only develop OER in English, a lot of people are being cut off. So let us develop OER in various languages, and the people who have really taken this is China. China has developed more than 11,000 courses, the government. They have taken all the MIT material, you know, the courseware which MIT professors have put on the website, because it's OER, they have translated everything into Chinese. And the students are actually benefiting greatly from that. And then the third is encourage open licensing of educational materials produced with public funds. The principle of OER is that, you know, if I am using the taxpayers' money to develop content, then I should make it available to other people free also. I should not make it into a commercial product. So this is the fundamental principle. Now, this is the what is OER. Let's come to the why we need OER. I think always we are trying to, you know, there are some people from the ministry and the Higher Education Commission and so on. Policy makers are always trying to reduce the cost of education so more people can come in, increase access to people who are out of education, and improve quality. So let me take one example from each of them to show, you know, how education for all can be achieved better if we use OER. Now, this is one example that there is a lot of OER being used now in developing countries. I mean, the leader is of course the US, a developed country, because they have technology and they don't have any digital divide, everybody is connected. So it's easy for them to do OER and to exchange and to repurpose. But even in developing countries like China, India, Vietnam, Indonesia, Japan, India and Indonesia, poor countries, and there is a lot of gap between the, you know, people, the digital divide. In spite of that, the government has actually started this project. Now, Malawi is one of the poorest countries, you know, in the world. It's the least developed country. Now, in this college, Banda College of Agriculture, they wanted to develop a communication skill textbook for the nursing course. They needed a textbook they didn't have. So they looked on the web and they found free materials and they developed 102-page communication skills textbook, which means 75% came from the web, OER, and 25% was exercises, etc., which their own teachers developed. So they brought in material which is relevant to Malawi, they brought in exercises which are relevant for their context, assignments and so on. And then it's interesting that there in the University of Jos in Nigeria, which is again a developing country, one lecturer wanted a communication skills textbook. He couldn't find one. He found this on the internet because this was OER, and he adopted it for his own students in the University of Jos. So this is kind of good South-South collaboration, that somebody has put in effort, they have made it free, somebody else can use it. So you can actually increase access. Then again, translation is another important thing, like CORE is the China Open Resources in Education project, which is the government of China project. They translate everything into Chinese, including our materials. They are not part of the Commonwealth, but whatever they find on the website, they have translated. For example, we have developed an instructional design template, which you can use, for especially in the Learning Resource Center, because this is a template which teaches, step by step how to do good instructional design and good structured materials. So the Chinese have translated it for their own use, and they didn't tell us. It's by chance I met somebody in the conference and they said, oh, we used it. We said, never mind, it's OER, please use it. And even in Ukrainian they have translated materials, So translation is another way of opening up access. So don't start from scratch, look at the good quality materials available, translate. The second thing I talked about, quality, how can this improve quality? Like PT UK, India has the IITs, Indian Institutes of Technology. The minute the student passes out of, it's very difficult to get in. But once you pass out, the Americans will take you for a $200,000 salary a year. People like you, young people, are getting such high salaries, and they take them from the last year itself. I mean, the quality of the teachers is so high. The teachers are excellent, the students are excellent, but there are many engineering colleges in India which are very poor because they are so far away, no connectivity, no proper library, no resources, no materials. So what the government has done through this national project in technology enhanced learning, they have taken the IIT professors to develop materials in engineering and technology and made them free under this project NPTEL. Now 611 institutions, engineering colleges in India are using those materials. Teachers are using them to improve their teaching. Students are using them to improve, access to resources. And it is actually improving, these are very remote, Bhilai Institute of Technology, Chhattisgarh, remote tribal area. And people are using that to improve the quality of teaching and learning. So, OER can actually help us improve quality, as I have shown from this example. What about costs? Engineering textbooks are very expensive. I come from Vancouver, which is north of Seattle. In Seattle, one engineering textbook in a community college costs $100. It's very expensive for students. In Brazil, there was a research study that for one textbook, students had to spend 50% of the family income. The book was so expensive. So many people don't go to university because they don't have the money. But in Utah, because US is really one of the leaders in open education resources, there is one professor called David Wiley who's a guru of OER. He has started this Utah Open Textbooks project, so that in $100 book, if you download it because it's based on OER, costs you $5. And if the student doesn't download it, print it off, just takes it online, then it's $0. So it can encourage a lot more people by cutting down the costs. South Africa, they were spending 1.5 billion rand giving to commercial publishers for developing textbooks, and then the students would have those textbooks for 5 years. Now they have decided that the Department of Basic Education will develop textbooks every year with new materials using OER. Of course, it will still cost money, it's not going to be free, because somebody has to do the research and find the right materials for that year. But it cuts down drastically the cost even for governments. And what COL has done, what we have done is that we have helped the government of Antigua and Barbuda, which is a small island state in the Caribbean, to develop an OER policy as part of the ICT in education policy. So if the government here is developing an ICT in education policy, possibly the place where they can bring the OER policy. They don't have to have a separate OER policy. It can be part of ICT in education policy or part of an education policy. Even if they are doing a policy for e-learning or something, they can actually incorporate the OER dimension into that. And what we did after they have developed the policy, we have done a template which is again available on our website on how to put together open textbooks. So this again, like the instructional design template, it's an electronic version. It will show you how to find the text, how to find the OER, how to put the license there, how to develop the exercises, how to develop the assignments and all of that. So you can use this to develop an open textbook for your own students. So I think those are the three things which we can learn, that we can improve access, cut down costs and improve quality using. I've just given you one example because we don't have time. I want to hear from you. So what have we learned in the last 10 years? One is that when we started the term OER, it was only OER for higher education. But as more and more governments started achieving universal primary education, there was a big rush to go to secondary schools. But there were not enough secondary schools. And there was not enough resources that governments had to bring children into quality secondary schools. So they have started now developing OER for secondary schools as well. We have developed, the Commonwealth of Learning has developed OER for secondary schools in 20 subjects collaboratively. And some of the subjects will be very culture specific, but math, science, biology, all of these subjects I think you can take from there and you can use that. Then of course there is a need for skills development. In fact, this is the most area which needs a great deal of attention because we don't have so many OER in this. The second is that we have seen, like I was showing, I don't know if you saw day before, that even in Palestine, it's more than 95% mobile coverage of the population. Most developing countries, internet, broadband access is very low, anything between 10 to 40%, but whereas in Europe and America it's 80 to 90%. So there's a huge digital divide. But in this area, the greatest growth rate of mobiles is in developing countries. In Africa, if you go, I was working in UNESCO in Dakar, so I was walking on the street and there was a beggar sitting there, so I put some money in his tin. When I came back, he was busy talking on the phone. I said, oh my goodness, I just paid for his phone call. But everybody has, that's the point. So how can we use this technology to reach our students using OER? So this is the second thing. The third is that, very interesting, that otherwise with OER now we are seeing a multi-directional exchange of knowledge. I'll tell you what that means, that usually, MIT is developing those courses and we are taking them. It's a unidirectional flow. But University of Ghana, they have the medical school, and here there is a lecturer who is actually, he developed a kind of simple procedure for cesarean section. He videotaped it. And that is now being used in the Netherlands, so from developing countries. Similarly, Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, Buruli ulcer is a very African disease. He is an expert, world expert in that. So he has developed some content around that, videos and so on. WHO is using that. And I think University of Michigan, because he is the world leader. So people can now, see where are the world leaders. Like yesterday somebody was mentioning, Al-Quds was mentioning that they are running a MOOC in Palestine. I don't think anybody is a bigger expert in Palestine. They may have Palestine studies in University of Chicago or somewhere, but I think the biggest experts are sitting here. So we have to find the niche. Which is our niche and area of expertise? How can we share that with the rest of the world? You can start courses in Arabic, where you know, for expatriates and so on. I mean, there are so many ways, and make those resources available as OER. The next is that what we have learned is that people are not very clear about open licensing. This is again books which we have developed, Call has developed. They are available on the website, free. You can download them, and I'll say a little bit more about this open licensing, what it means. But if you want to put your material out as OER, it has to be put under an open license. Otherwise it's not, people can't change it. They may use it like we do in research by giving the attribution, but we can't change the material. But OER, we must not only, we can change, we can translate, we can mix, we can take something from here, something from there, and according to our own curriculum, we can put the materials together. But we can only do that if the material is OER, which means it's under an open license. So people started, you know, David Wiley started open licensing in 1999. There are others who started, Wikipedia also started using some open license. But I think the one which has become the most popular and is used in more than I think 90 countries is Creative Commons. And I've given you this book, you know, basic thing about this thing. And if you go on your cell phone or on your computer and you type Creative Commons, they'll even show you how to fill. Now let me just explain a little bit. CC BY. Now there are 6 options. You know, they have 3 versions. Copyright, you know, is a very legal, technical field. We can't understand it. We are not experts. And because of that, there is a professor from Stanford who actually made it very simple. He made this simple for people like us, you know, common people who can understand very clearly. Then he has made a second version which the lawyers will understand, which is all the legal thing. And they have taken into account all the different copyright laws in different countries. And the third one is a machine readable type, you know, which the computers will recognize. So we can use any of these licenses according to our level of comfort to open up our materials. The most open one is the first, and the most closed one is the last one, and I'll explain why. CC BY means that is Creative Commons BY. If I put my material, you know, this presentation as CC BY, which means you can use these slides as you like by giving attribution. That means you'll have to say, I took it from so and so. That you have to acknowledge the source, but you can change according to whatever you like, you can translate, you can do whatever you like. The second one is CC BY SA. That means if you use that material and adapt it, that means SA means share alike. That means you have to share it with the rest of the world once you have changed it. You think this is rubbish, now let me make it better. You have made it better, but because I put that license there, you will also have to use that same license when you put your material out. So somebody else can use it and then share alike, and then the whole cycle continues. This one is CC BY ND. This is again a closed license. That means you use it, but it's non-derivative. You can't change it. You have to use it as is, which is a bit restrictive. Then the other one is CC BY NC, which means you can change it, etc., but you can't start selling books outside and making money out of it, non-commercial. So some people put that, like the British Open University put their materials out under the CC license, but by NC, which means don't sell our materials outside and don't start making money. Then this one is CC BY NC share alike, which means it's non-commercial, but you can share alike, which means use the same license when you release your adapted materials. And the final one is that CC BY NC, it's neither non-commercial and non-derivative. That means you can't change it, you can't sell it. But the first one is very easy, you can even sell it. They are not stopping you. And the second one also they are not stopping you. So there is a lot of flexibility, and please, if you go to the website, you know, you can use Google or Bing or whatever to go into this Creative Commons. They actually have about a short template on the first page where you fill in your details and they'll tell you what kind of license you should adopt. They'll give you one of these, you know, because they'll ask you some questions and you can decide, I don't want this, I want this, then they'll tell you this is the license you should opt for. So it's very simple. The only thing is we have to now look on the web, that's all. So what are the trends in 2014? One is that this kind of advocacy, you know, like I'm telling you that OER can do this, because many people don't know. If you ask teachers in remote areas that do you know about OER, they are the ones who need it most because they don't have good quality material. They said, we have never heard of it. And so we said, will you be interested? They said, no, we are already underpaid and overworked. We don't have time for all this nonsense. We don't want to take it. But you know, if they understand that it will actually save them time, they will take it. Because there are all kinds of resources available, curriculum, lesson plans, questions, quizzes, everything is available. They just have to look for it and they'll have a very simple life, you know, I mean, they can save half their time. The second is that developing countries have actually taken this up very seriously, and they have emerged as significant contributors, especially countries like India, Nigeria, I mentioned China as well, and their materials are available in English. So you can use, you know, like China, it's mostly in Mandarin, very little in Chinese, very little in English. And in big countries like India, they have adopted an OER policy. And in Antigua and Barbuda, which is a small island, they have adopted. So I've just given you two examples, since we were talking about policy to practice, they are doing it, policy and practice of OER. So what have we done, which which you can see, you know, on my website. We do all this, you know, policy development with countries, capacity building, publications, and we have some of the best, the most recent publications. And now we are doing a publication jointly with UNESCO on the costs. Because, you know, when you talk to ministers that why aren't you using OER, they say, give me concrete evidence how I can cut cost. Because ministers are always worried about, you know, saving money. So we are developing a book now on costs and quality, which will come out in 2015. And advocacy, we have workshops, etc., with different countries, you know, on why we should use OER. These are the resources which I have shared with you. These are developed jointly with UNESCO Paris. And this is like very simple, you know, it's like frequently asked questions. Why should I give my property away? It's my intellectual property. This is the first question teachers ask. And Professor Marwan will say, why should I give it to my competitors, you know, other universities, making my material free? So all those answers are there. Here again in the Caribbean, you know, many countries are now going for open textbooks because they know that this is the way forward. And Ministry of Education is using, actually governments are saying now we will use Creative Commons licenses. And we have also, as I said, you know, developed OER for open schools, which means these 6 countries brought together ministries of education, schools, teachers and consultants, and they developed high quality content in 20 subject areas. And these are now available as OER in different formats. You can take it down as print, audio, video, even in Braille for the, you know, visually impaired. And we are now doing this, you know, OER for English language teaching in Kenya, because English language teaching is very poor in most of our rural schools. How can we train teachers in English language teaching? So we developed this material with Africans. So it's in their accent, it's not in a British or an American accent, it's African accent. These teachers have been trained, they are the master trainers, they are now training others. And the Kenyan government has adopted our materials as the national curriculum for teacher development from next year onwards. So this is a big kind of, I think, impact which OER have had. And we have also, you know, when you develop OER, the other question is that okay, you have taken my material, have you made it better or have you made it worse? Who is responsible for the quality? So quality assurance agencies must see how to keep the quality good, of OER and not allow it to deteriorate. So we have developed that book, Open Education Resources. It's a tips framework, how to use this. This is again a directory of open education resources, which has all these materials from Commonwealth countries, which we have put together as directories. You can go on our website and take it, any courses. Now we come to the academic part, that what are the issues actually under OER. You know that there is a digital divide. You can see Europe and North America, 80 to 90% access to computers, internet and so on. Look at Africa, it's less than 10%. Asia, again less than 10%. So there is a huge digital divide. And this is what Manuel Castell said, that the network society is a major source of the structuration of power relationships. That we are trying to get out. We think that the internet is a big leveler who is going to make more equality among different people of the world, but this is not the case. It can make it even much worse. So one of the things is that we have to be mindful of this part, that how do we actually ensure that women, poor people and others are not disadvantaged further because of this kind of advent of technology. I am going to leave this paper behind so you can see that more, because it's a bit technical, so I don't want to talk about that now here. And another professor in Harvard, he talks about this, and I'll just tell you that can OER help us address issues of equity and inequality. Now Justin Reich argues that OER by itself will not address equity issues. Institutions and groups with better access to resources and infrastructure will make more use of the educational technology innovations such as free and open resources rather than marginalized groups. And he gives two scenarios, you see the first one and the second one. In the left figure, everyone benefits from new educational technologies, but low income students disproportionately benefit. That means they have very high benefits. The hope here is that with new free resources, low income students will have access to resources previously only available to students in rich schools. In the right figure you see, everyone still benefits, but now the wealthy benefit disproportionately. The richer people and the children who are going to good schools will benefit much more, and the poor children will benefit much less. So teachers working in schools serving low income students simply can't make much use of the technology because they don't have planning time, they don't have broadband access. But even then it's still a good thing because everybody is better off before, but the opportunity gap between the wealthy and the poor has expanded, it's become wider. And if the second model which I was showing is true, then virtually every education technology initiative, including OER, which does not specifically target the needs of particular populations, will disproportionately benefit the wealthy even if the materials are free. So I think in simple terms, what does this mean? It means that if we are trying to reach, people who are out of the system, they will not automatically benefit from OER. OER are good things. We have, as an institution, whichever institution or as a ministry, we have to target those groups and specifically tailor the programs for them and reach them, otherwise they'll never be reached. So this is something, it's not going to happen automatically. A great deal of effort has to be made, and I think this is a very useful insight for the Learning and Innovation Center. Now let me come to the third issue, that in Asia they did, in 13 countries including Afghanistan, Pakistan, India and so on, they did a survey in 13 countries and they asked people, what do you think about OER? Look at this, teachers felt that they did not have time or the capacity to locate, adapt and repurpose OER material relevant to their work. And I think the response will not be very different here in Palestine. They will say the same thing. We don't have time, we are already overloaded. Learners felt that OER should be fully open. Half open materials are not going to help us, because you know, when you go to the internet, some of it is OER and some of it is copyrighted. So students said we don't have patience with that kind of thing, so either it should be all fully open, otherwise it's useless for us. Then technical support people said that we should have, you know, OER which are transferable, you know, they are SCORM compliant, which means that when you repackage and reuse, they should be easy to migrate from one system to another. So this was their challenge. And the management said that what about intellectual property? We don't want to have a court coming and use your material. What about competition from my other universities? Why should I give my materials free? My materials are better quality, I am going to hide them. But the point is that if I am going to hide them, somebody else is already putting even better materials on the internet. So what's the point of it? So I think the benefit is that many universities should share, because if you don't share, you can keep hanging on to your old outdated materials. Somebody else will put more outdated material, updated material on the web. And what happens is those people will get a reputation for leadership in innovation. And in MIT, when they started putting their courseware free, a lot of people were not MIT students, you know, but 35% of the people who went to the MIT courseware actually joined MIT. So it can actually improve your business. So even if you are putting materials and you say, oh, I have lost, I would have made so much money, you will get more students and you will still make money. I mean, I'm sounding like a salesperson here. Then the other is that, you know, how do we involve those remote people? For example, there are teachers in some remote school in Gaza, how do we involve them? You know, it's all the major universities which are doing all these things. We are talking about OER, we are talking in international circles. How can we reach really those people who are the stakeholders, you know? The students will benefit if the teachers buy into this. How can we reach them? So this is still a challenge for us. This is an issue that we have not been able to enlarge the circle. We are always talking to the converted, you know, to people who already know about these things. We should somehow bring all those people. And the second is that how do we encourage teachers and students not just to be consumers of content but producers. Take a nice video which has some educational content, put it available free and become a producer of content. Take somebody else's material, adapt it, put it back and become a producer, and students can become that. So for policy and practice, what can Palestine do? First is develop a dynamic ICT in education policy. I am saying dynamic and not static because, you know, technology is changing so fast. Today it's yesterday it was MOOC, day before it was OER, tomorrow it will be something else. So it has to be, you know, a visionary policy which is open to interpretation even 10 years from now. Technologies may change, but we can't keep changing policies every day because it takes a lot of time. So that's why I'm saying it should be a dynamic ICT in education policy. Propose a vision and strategy for OER at all levels of education, not just in the universities, but also in, you know, schools, teacher training institutions, polytechnics and so on. And recognize OER development at par with academic publications to reward faculty, because faculty need certain publications, you know, in peer-reviewed journals. When they come up for promotion, they have to show all those things on their CV. So if the government says, okay, if you have developed OER courses, you can use it, then it actually creates an incentive and a kind of, you know, win-win situation for the faculty as well. Now these are the countries which have developed OER policies: South Africa, Mauritius, India, and I have given you the links to those. You can go, if you are developing your own policy, you can see what those people did and you can take some samples out of it or some elements out of that for your own. For example, this is now no longer the minister because now there is a new government, but when he was the minister, he said that, you know, the National Council for Educational Research and Training actually has taken this CC by SA license on all the textbooks in schools in India, and they are the people who develop these things, which means anybody can use that material, and there is no need for this thing. And the point is that he's referring to the UNESCO Paris Declaration. So I think that Paris Declaration had a lot of influence on governments who actually began to take this. So what can institutions do? I told you what countries can do. Institutions can also develop an OER policy. UNESCO didn't have an open access policy, which means all their materials were closed. Now all their materials are under open access. That means any research which they do is available free. World Bank has done it. We of course started with it. So all that is free. Elaborate a policy on copyright. You know, this is also important, because whenever you talk about OER, the copyright issue will always come up. Provide incentives for faculty members such as increments and recognition of OER development towards promotions, and develop a strategy for involving stakeholders, you know, the people in remote areas who otherwise would never take part in this. So now let's come, I have done my part, now your part. You can answer these 3 questions from your perspective as a policy maker or a practitioner. What are the 3 most pressing challenges for adopting OER? How do you propose to overcome these? And what would be your 3 key recommendations in the Palestinian context? And each group will have a chair and a rapporteur, and you'll all discuss the same questions, and we'll give you half an hour, after which you'll report back. How's that? Agenda is approved? Oh, that table, okay?
لو سمحتوا بس أولا نشكر الدكتور أشا على البرزنتيشن الرائعة اللي قدمتها الآن. صدقا تحمل كثير من الجديد بالنسبة لنا عن موضوع الأوبن ريسورسز، اللي هي المصادر المفتوحة اللي بإمكاننا نتوصل لها بدون عناء وبدون أي تعب. فعلا كانت البرزنتيشن وضحت كثير من الأمور المتعلقة في الأوبن ريسورسز. فيما يتعلق في الكوبي رايت واضح كيف كان التدرج، وهناك الإمكانيات لاستخدام مصادر مفتوحة بشكل كامل حتى بالإمكانية لبيعها. يعني وصلت في بعض المصادر في عليها restrictions أو محظورات معينة من أجل استخدامها فقط لأمور محددة الاستخدام، وبعضها كان محدد جدا، فبالتالي يعتمد على النوع. القضية الأخرى اللي هي موضوع الكواليتي، كيف التحكم في الكواليتي أو نوعية أو جودة المصادر، شو اللي بده يحكم جودة المصادر وجودة استخدامها. الآن هناك أنا معي إمكانية في كثير من المصادر إنه أقوم بتعديلها والإضافة عليها، بالتالي بيكون في عنا مشكلة الآن. هل ستكون المادة اللي راح أطلعها أنا أفضل ولا أسوأ؟ وهون هذا الكلام كثير مهم جدا. فبالتالي في هناك هيئات مختصة اللي تتابع العملية هاي، بحيث إنه ما يكونش في إساءة للمصدر الأساسي اللي حصلنا عليه منه المعلومة. لأنه بصفي هون قضية أخرى بالنسبة لعملية، هناك سؤال كان يطرح إنه طب ليش هاي الناس بتحط هاي المصادر الرائعة جدا على open source زي MIT مثلا. لما بنقول جامعة MIT أعطتنا بعد كبير جدا إنه وفرت مصادر ضخمة جدا open source كلها، وهي يعني open resources وممكن نستخدمها. طب وشو بتستفيد هي المؤسسة هنا؟ هي بالعكس هذا بيكون كريدت إلها، كريدت إضافي، إنه هون المؤسسة هي واثقة بنفسها لدرجة كبيرة جدا، لدرجة إنه تحط هاي المصادر. فبالتالي هو بالعكس راح يسبب مدخول إضافي إلها، لأنه الالتحاق بهذه الجامعة راح يزداد نتيجة يعني هي نوع من التسويق برضو. فعلا فينا نعتبرها نوع من التسويق للجامعة. قضية أخرى اللي هي قضية متعلقة في البوليسز. فيما يتعلق في البوليسز اللي هي السياسات وكيفية اعتمادها في الدول المختلفة، يعني هي تطرقت لمجموعة من الدول اللي اعتمدت بوليسيز، وصار بإمكاننا يعني الحلو جدا بكل ما تحدثت فيه، يعني كانت في بداية حديثها إنه كل المصادر وكل حتى البرزنتيشنز اللي قدمت لنا إياها هي بإمكاننا نستخدمها إحنا بكل أريحية، لأنه هي بتعتبرها هي ممكن أي واحد ممكن. موضوع الترجمة موضوع هام جدا، إنه هناك دول كثيرة تحديد المصادر باللغة الإنجليزية بيعملها مشكلة، بالتالي زي في الهند زي في غيرها إنه قاموا بعمليات الترجمة، وبالتالي توفروا المصادر المطلوبة لهم بشكل إيجابي. بديش أطول أكثر من هيك، خلينا بس نستعرض الموضوع مجموعات العمل. إحنا الآن فترة النصف ساعة القادمة رح نقضيها على شكل مجموعات عمل من أجل الإجابة على 3 مواضيع، اللي هي الأولى what are the 3 most pressing challenges for adopting OER. شو ال3 شغلات اللي بتضغط أو تحديات، خلينا نقول challenges اللي هي التحديات اللي بتضغط على عملية تبني الأوبن ريسورسز. القضية الثانية شو بتقترح للتغلب على هاي التشالنجز أو التحديات. والنقطة الثالثة اللي هي شو بكون في ال3 مواضيع التوصيات الأساسية لا في حال البالستينيان كونتكست اللي هي في حال الفلسطينية. كل مجموعة بإمكانها تشتغل مع بعض مع رجاء تحديد يكون في رئيس للجلسة ومقرر في كل مجموعة. خلينا الآن نعرض كل مجموعة. الآن المجموعة الأولى عنا اللي هي كان عملوا العرض على مباشر رح يعرضوه على السمارت بورد عنا.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اسمي جواد عبادي، بدرس تربية في الجامعة العربية الأمريكية. I teach education at the Arab American University of Jenin. The first question was, what are the three most pressing challenges for adapting OER? التحديات الضاغطة الهامة الرئيسية. The first one, in our group, we agreed that it was one of the issues could be a conflict between the new material from OER and the current textbook that we use at our teaching. The student might find different answers or different ways that might the teacher be not aware of, which one is correct in grading or evaluation. So this may be an issue of coping with the new material. Sometimes we use old material. The second is the language. Many staff members and teachers and students lack English proficiency, and it is a big challenge because most of the material is in English and other languages. So it's a big issue. Few resources are in Arabic. Access problem, lack of infrastructure for internet, especially at schools and some universities. There are a lot of viruses in their computers, a lot of maintenance issues. Internet access is limited and not all the time, and some problems. It's not fast. It's a challenge. Some people don't have computers, some people don't have electricity, especially in Gaza. Lack of skills and professional capacity of technology, which is related to users' skills, from staff, from students, from other users. They need skills to use to go effectively on the internet, find the right resources, download it, develop it, use it. It's not easy for everyone. That's why they claim we have no time, we cannot do it because of lack of time. Maybe you can find as a challenge for the staff who have a lot of overload. It's another challenge. Like online education has low image in our culture. It is not certified by the ministry, and if you say I have a master degree from MIT online, they say, oh, an institute online too. They don't know what is meant. They think it is an institute. Yeah, exactly. Go to university, don't go to institute. I have a friend of mine, he graduated from MIT with 4.0 honor, PhD. And he, when he got his tawjihi, he said, I got admission from MIT. They told him, go to university, don't go to Ma'had Institute. No, this is not, it's like 2-year college, they thought. Okay, this is a low image in our culture. Maybe we need to work on our culture. Propose to overcome these issues or challenges, public awareness and training and education and seminars and workshops. And this is maybe one of the main purposes of this conference, is to bring a good awareness. Translation from English to Arabic. Maybe it's easier to translate from the end than to reinvent the wheel from the beginning. Incentives for users, as you mentioned, for staff to be recommended to be included in their promotion, and for students also to consider their effort. They don't have to make maybe every research from zero. What would be the recommendations for Palestinian context? أولاً, ministry to develop new policies to adapt OER. Maybe also universities, they need to develop new policies following maybe together, and the schools to take the lead to promote OER. for their students and staff, and provide training. Training for users in all institutions to improve the skills and to show them the benefit of it. Getting support from local industry, the business people, the big companies, to support us by fund, by material, by the NGOs, anybody who can provide better technology, better resources, because it needs money to improve using it effectively. That's our group effort. Thank you very much.
Very good. Very good you are.
Thank you.
The challenges that we have just agreed on with our colleagues here. First, social issues. We have a lack of course, awareness of all stakeholders of technology and the use of technology in learning. Number two, there is what we call one-directional learning in schools. Really, or mostly used at our schools is teacher to student. So there is, and most students are passive learners. Number three, the infrastructure. There is a poor quality of connectiveness, I mean internet access. Some schools have internet access, others don't. Also, if it is available or there is an access to internet, it is costly and expensive. Poor quality of connectiveness, I mean internet access, and number two, high cost of internet access. Most schools don't have this capacity, or yes, because it is costly. Number three, lack of training of stakeholders. But the Ministry of Education and Higher Education started qualifying teachers using the what we call Intel, ICT, and others. But this is the beginning. Now, suggestions for improving or for overcoming such challenges. First, raising awareness. I recommend that the Ministry of Education should raise awareness of all stakeholders, involving parents, of course. Number two, varying learning styles, because I have just said that there is what we call one-directional learning in schools, teacher to class or teacher to students. They can vary the learning styles, student to content, student, and student teacher-student. Not only teacher-student, which is the most common teaching style or learning style. Number three, making textbooks available also on mobiles and tablets devices or tablet devices. Also training teachers and all those of course concerned. Recommendations. Adopting a policy of ICT awareness by the Ministry of Education and Higher Education is number one. Number two, promoting innovative projects regarding democratization of learning. We should adopt a motto which says the right to learn for all, free learning. To make everything available and free, to make access free to all learning resources. And number three, I recommend that, we recommend that training teachers, we recommend that teachers, supervisors, all stakeholders, including parents, should be trained to use ICT and how to incorporate teaching in learning, in e-learning, teaching in e-learning. That's it.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I will not impose reluctancy. I will talk about other things that are new for them, which is the philosophy of education in Palestine as a general. Now, we have governmental design syllabuses that they are considered as holy books. They are untouchable. Yeah. You can't touch, you can't change, you can't do anything, any changes towards these books. And number two, we have the close-minded people. Still, we have people who are close-minded. That means they exceed competition over collaboration. I say, it's mine, I will not collaborate or cooperation, impose cooperation between universities and establishments in order for all people to get benefit from these resources. These are mine. And these are which new The others are repeated from others, so I will not mention them. Proposing overcoming these problems, we supposing partnership, university partnerships all over, and something which is called twinning schooling all over. And we have an experience with that within a town which is called Shwayki here in Tulkarem. For those who are not from Tulkarem, we have a twin school in Shwayki which won the first international school in a twinning with a British school. That means they get benefit very much from the OER resources in order to get used for school, for students and both teachers and the students in the school. It was a very nice experience for them. We have some problems in training programs, so we have we can get benefit from some experts all over. So this partnership will benefit us in having partners and having expertise and experts from outside Palestine, from abroad, in order for letting these students and for these administrators, teachers, whatever, employees, employers, anyhow, to get benefit from this experience. Also, we have, we need to expand awareness towards portfolios. We only believe in exams. And when believing in exams, that means the student will have only the original textbook in order to memorize and come to have the mark. And this is a very big problem, by the way, because after that, he will not get believed in having the OER in order to have the knowledge. He only needs the mark. Yeah. So the knowledge is something which is regrettable for him, and he doesn't need that in order to memorize. And that's what we have. Okay. And others are repeated.
Okay, thank you. Very good. So that means assessment strategies to be changed. Assessment.
The traditional test should not be abolished totally, but we can use what we call alternative assessment, such as portfolio, for example, projects, research papers, presentation, group presentations, and so project-based learning. There is something also missing here. What about follow-up? For example, once about 5-6 years ago, I was involved in a project what we call IERN. It is an international project. I chose here in my district a project called Fight Against Child Labor, because there is a problem here which is widely used in our district, Tulkarem, Fight Against Child Labor. Most students, as soon as they leave school, they push what we call a wheelbarrow or something like that to sell or to biddle things. So this was a problem. But I faced a problem that the teacher that I selected to work with me was not good enough at internet, using the internet. So, and I just drew up a plan which was really well developed plan. But the Minister of Education did not follow it up. So follow-up is a problem. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So the third one we can add follow-up.
10 minutes instead of 5.
Your group. Sorry.
Just now the last group.
Yes.
Last group is this one.
No, there are still the last group.
Yeah,
Yes.
they've spoken.
We suggested that this, like we called it, policy or strategy, is not recognized in our country. The like how to use the open resource efficiently. Also, we have that technology in our, like with our students. Oh, okay. We have the technology tools, like we have our cell phones with us, we and our students too, but we don't know how to use it properly. Like most of the faculty members and even the students, they will not Google something beneficial to them. They will just, for example, open the Facebook, text message each other. In addition to the technical problems with internet access, the English language as a barrier. Our students have weakness in English language. And we propose that we have to teach our teachers or hold some workshops or professional development to introduce these new strategies among our faculty. In addition to, in our country, or like in Palestinian context, we don't like to share knowledge between faculty members. like how to teach or how to gain students' attention. So it's good to share knowledge between each other. In translation of open resources, for our students and for some faculty members, we need the translation for these open resources in Arabic, in our language. Some of the recommendations we got to, we have to work collaboratively, as we said, we don't share knowledge with each other, so we have to work cooperatively. Yeah, here. We have to work collaboratively with each other to avoid repetition. In addition to, the university has to decrease the load of some faculty members so they can create new teaching and learning activities by using these open resources. Thank you.
Very good. All of us. But I think it's very clear that the same things came out, that lack of infrastructure, lack of awareness, policy makers need to be convinced, whether at the national level or at the institutional level. But I think the fundamental thing which has come out is that, our way of teaching and learning has to be transformed. There has to be a pedagogic transformation in the sense that we are looking now at one textbook and right and wrong answer. It's no longer valid in the 21st century. This is 20th century type of teaching and learning that, this is the right answer and you learn it by heart and produce it. That's not going to work. Our assessment methods have to be changed. That has to be transformed. There are going to be different, more creative ways of testing people's knowledge, skills, values, competencies, and that will have to change. It cannot be that same old test, sit for 3 hours till your hands are paining and regurgitate in that kind of rote manner. That's not going to work. And then the third is that we have to cater, it's not one size cannot fit all. There are people with different type of learning needs. How do we reach them all? Some of them will react better to a teacher-student kind of interaction. Some will respond better to one friend to the other response. Some will respond better to content and the student. And of course, ultimately when people study, everybody is not into interactivity. Some people like reflecting. I mean, people say that, when there is more interactivity, the learning outcomes are better. But some people prefer reflection. So how do we provide opportunities to all our students for reflection as well as for interactivity? So that I think those transformations are really much more kind of significant. All the other things we can take care of, but this mindset change is a long drawn process. It will not happen overnight. Overnight you can translate the materials, overnight you can bring the computers, overnight you can train people, but to change the mind will take a longer time. And that I hope will start soon now, because if you become the champions and convince others, because people can actually benefit a lot, they can save a lot of time if they start looking for OER. Lesson plans have been made, beautiful materials are there. You go to Khan Academy, in Pakistan they have translated all this Khan Academy material of math into Urdu, and they are using it in their schools. So why are we going to reinvent the wheel when somebody else has done a better job than we can? So let us use it, and with that, thank you very much for your attention.